Hi, welcome to Dinah Dares to Plan. I am Dinah Dare. I am a burlesque performer who has been performing for 6 years, and I've had the opportunity to perform across the world. And during the day, I'm also a project manager in tech. So the point of this series is to combine the skills that I have in project management and show you how I can apply those skills, tips and tricks to burlesque and cabaret. So what we're going to be doing first is looking at when you've got a new idea. If you're anything like me, you get super excited. You just want to jump on that idea, you want to make it happen. But it's really good to stop, take a breath, and do the correct research and what we call in tech a discovery phase to make sure that you have the information that you need and you have the key decisions made that you need in order to actually go ahead with whatever your idea is. So, the example I'm going to be using today is of a new act. I'm going to be showing you examples of stuff that I'm literally using at the moment for an act I'm working on. However, these techniques can be used for planning a tour, a new production, even if you're going to thinking about applying for festivals, anything at all. You're really able to kind of utilise these tips and tricks and apply them there. So if you do like what I'm talking about today or in the future, please do like and subscribe, as I will be here for you every week. So let's crack on with today. So I do have my trusty laptop here with my details that I'm going to also show on screen so that you can see exactly what I'm referencing to when I'm chatting away. So what is a discovery phase? So a discovery phase is a time-boxed period where we're looking to understand the existing landscape, we're looking to make some key decisions and also to collect as much information that we need for us to be able to go ahead with the next phase and actually implement what it is that we're thinking of. How that applies to a new act is when you have a new act and you've got all those ideas buzzing around and you just want to immediately do things, you need to sit down and gather a few bits of information together before you proceed. So the things that you can see that I've got on my mind map, and also I am using a mind map here on a tool called Miro. Miro is entirely free to use. The reason that I do it here is because it's easy to edit, it's easy to delete. I've done it on paper before and then I just scribble things out and spend most of my time rewriting it so that it's neat. So I prefer to use tech to do it these days, just because it's a lot easier to edit and go back to whenever I want to. So when I was researching a new act, which is a Baby Bell act, which will be coming later this year, I had to think about a few different things. And I just sort of, a lot of this was ideas that I had from the initial thought, and then some of it was as I was actually sitting down to think about it. So themes, immediately, it's cheese, it's food. And I also thought, it's fun. I thought about maybe having a bit of showgirl aspect to it there. Do I want it's cheese, but it's showgirly? We always need to think about what our budget is. Costume idea, collecting ideas for the costume. So for me, that was ideas that I had saved on Instagram, maybe scribbling some drawings down, looking over at Pinterest, thinking about what silhouettes that I liked, maybe how I would want the costume to work, just starting to kind of have what is the base idea and collecting inspiration essentially as to what that costume would look like. Costume designers, for me, this is about looking at where can I source my costumes from. So you can see on here I wrote down a couple of different people that I had either looked at or considered reaching out to. I chose with this to get it completely custom made for me, but that doesn't have to be the case. It may also be that you've got the skills to make it yourself, in which case note that down. But then do consider, right, okay, well what materials are you thinking of? Which again for me comes into the collecting the ideas for costumes. Props. We love a prop. Are you going to have a lovely feather boa? Are you going to have a feather fan? Again, you've maybe got an idea in your head, scribble it down, think about it, let it sit in there. Music, for me, I was like, I want it to be upbeat, I want it to be 90s, I want it to be really cheesy music because it's a cheesy act. You might have a song in mind. You might be a lucky person who hears a song and goes, I'm dancing to that. In which case, when it comes to music, you immediately know what you're putting down here. And also style of movement, I think it's important to consider what kind of style of movement are you thinking about for this act. Are we going bump and grind? Are we going salsa? Do we want some Charleston? Very showgirl arms and headpieces? Or what sort of style of movement are we sort of aiming for, or what are our initial thoughts? And this is really just the initial ideas in my brain spat out on a bit of paper so that they stopped swirling around in my brain. It allowed me to be able to see it, and I could start to, it gave me other ideas as I was filling it in. My brain was kind of ricketing and I was writing down other things, and it kind of formed what you can see in front of you. Now, obviously a lot of this is just your initial blah. There is then actions you need to take out off the back of this, for me anyway. There is then actions that you do need to take out of the back of this. So I do have some what we call deliverables or outputs from a discovery phase that are key for me to then proceed to the next part of building the act. So for me, I want to have a vision board. This is just something on Pinterest. I know everyone does it differently. For me, it's a board on Pinterest that has maybe some sort of fabrics that I've got ideas from. It has silhouettes, costume pieces, anything that I've sort of liked, and it gives me a base idea as to what I want this costume or act to look like. That's what I have my vision board for, and it's just helped me at that point. I've honed in all my initial ideas and I'm sort of down to, right, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Off the back of that, I personally like to have a draft costume design, and it's just me scribbling. This doesn't need to be finalised. It just gives me an idea of what costume pieces am I maybe thinking about. So for this, I knew that I wanted a corset body. That was one of the, I knew straight off the back that I wanted a corset body. There was considerations around, do I want a robe? So I would put that down there, just like I was sort of playing with different drawings to have different options to consider. But you want to at least have one sort of draft at this point. If you haven't picked your music, you maybe want to have a playlist. That's what I like to do. If anyone ever looks at my Spotify, there is so many weirdly named playlists because they are for acts that I have worked on in the past. And what I do is I have an idea of what vibe I'm looking for, so I'll start to search for songs. I'll add them to a playlist. The playlist will then start recommending more songs that sound like that. I can listen to those songs' radios and add them. I tend to not go beyond 10 tracks on a playlist. It's a really good starting point if you haven't picked your music, to be able to have that playlist there that you can then listen to and whittle it down sort of later on. And also you do need to have a budget. You need to have a really good idea of what is it, how much are you willing to spend on this costume for what we're talking about. Now obviously I'm talking specifically about a costume. I said at the start of this, you can apply this otherwhere. So if you're doing a tour, you maybe want to have things like, what towns do you want to go to? What shows is there out there? What time of year is best to go on the tour? Who do you maybe need to, who are the key producers that you need to contact? This is just your initial research before you're actually doing anything with it. So now you have a solid idea, you have some key deliverables and outputs that you can then go ahead with to create your act. So what we're going to talk about in the next episode is how we go about planning and actually going ahead with that act. So we will talk about how we break it down into deliverable chunks and how we make that manageable so that we don't overwhelm ourselves as well. For me, the discovery phase is a lot more free form. It's an opportunity to go out and collect all that information that you think you would need to actually go ahead and do the thing that you want to do. One key thing I will say about the discovery phase is you do want to put a time box on it. I recommend a maximum of 4 weeks. That is a personal preference. You don't want it to be too short because you're not giving yourself enough time. And you don't want it to be too long because you'll lose momentum, you'll lose the drive, you might lose interest. So it's a good thing to give yourself a time box and go, right, by this point, I will have these key outputs. Please let me know if you do try this process and if it works for you, if there's anything you think I've missed or that you would need to consider when you're going ahead and doing this. Comment below, I'd love to have a conversation about it. Next time, we will look at how we go about implementing this and actually building our costume. I hope to see you then. Bye!